As parents, we all want to raise kids who are confident in their own skin. But let's be real, parenting always comes with its own ups and downs, and it's totally normal to wonder if we're on the right track or not. So today we're going to dive into the research to figure out what actually helps kids to build confidence and talk about practical real life strategies that will help you in your own home. Welcome to Phases, a child development podcast. I'm Dr. Courtney, a clinical and educational psychologist with over 15 years of experience.
And I'm Scott, Courtney's husband and professional podcaster.
We have two little ones of our own, and we know how busy life can get. So we're here to help you navigate every phase of the parenting journey.
Join me in learning from Courtney's expertise in parenting neurodiverse and neurotypical kids in a non-judgmental, fun, and evidence-based way.
We're so glad you're here. Make sure you subscribe and share with any parents in your life.
I'm really excited about this one. I think this is something that feels like it's either just innate in some people or not, but really I think there's a lot of strategies we can instill to make our kids grow up with more confidence than they otherwise might have had, right? So what does the research say here in terms of confidence?
Yeah, so of course we're talking about confident kids today, how to raise confident kids and what that looks like as a parent because, it starts from us as parents modeling that for our kids.
Yeah.
So I dug up some research that's, within the last 5 years or so. There's a couple of studies, but there was a study done and it reflects like what's going on right now with teens.
Mhm.
So in 2026, the estimation is only about half of kids or teens are confident, which is, very interesting. But what they're saying is that, like with Gen Z specifically, there's a confidence crisis
Really?
happening. Yeah, we're nearly like half of young people. So this is more like young adults
Yeah.
are not feeling confident enough or they feel not enough by their own standards
Yeah.
because of, of course,
Social media?
social
Yeah, that's
media,
the first thing that you
right?
think
And
of,
digital
right? Yes.
comparison, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of that age or that generation that was really raised on social media.
Yeah. And then maybe even they're raised in social media in a way where the parents aren't savvy enough to be able to, like, the parents have fallen into that same trap or whatever. Nobody has grown up realizing the effects of social media. So maybe they'll be the first generation to really understand how that works.
Yeah, and there's a really great book that I'm sure most people know, especially if you're watching this, but it's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and it really covers that exact
See, I
topic.
don't know that book.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay, yeah.
So The Anxious Generation
The
by
Anxious Generation.
Jonathan.
Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's Haidt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So another study, this is the Listen Up report. I believe this is like from the UK, but they were saying 1 in 3 young people are reporting to have little to no confidence,
Wow.
which is, yeah, it's sad. There's this concept of the confidence cliff where confidence tends to decline as kids grow up. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like young kids, it's saying about 77% of 7-year-olds report high confidence. And then by the age of 14 or 15, it drops to about 50%.
Mm.
So, yeah, and that's something we know intuitively, like being a teenager is really hard. There's less
Yeah.
social pressures and all the things. But, when you see these stats, it's really clear that so many kids, even our young kids that are not on social media, are just like coming into the world 7 or 8 are still struggling with low confidence.
Yeah. I
So
think in some households, those kids are consuming social media or YouTube or,
oh gosh, that's horrifying to think about. But
yeah.
definitely, yeah, it's hard to escape it, right? Because it's everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we often hear the word confidence just used as something we all kind of innately know what it means. What is confidence? And in general, like, where does it come from? Why would somebody like me just feel confident without necessarily ever having to, like, try to focus on being confident? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So confidence is essentially, feeling like obviously like yourself, right? That you're a good person, that you bring value. and that you trust that and I think this is the biggest indicator of confidence is that you trust that no matter what you're faced with, like any sort of challenge or something that you've never done before, that you can handle it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that belief in yourself, and if you think about kids, like no matter if it's a new experience or a new activity or, I'm with a new group of people, right, at like a summer camp or something
Yeah.
like that, I can handle whatever comes my way, and when kids start to doubt that ability, then that lack of confidence creeps in,
Yeah.
right?
I think that we're using the word resiliency in here a bit already. I think that that is one of the reasons why I grew up. Maybe not. I don't know if I was confident in high school or whatever, but with the confidence that I can approach challenges, like you said, the trust in your ability to handle new or difficult things. I've always kind of had that because I've always valued being a resilient person, and I
Mhm.
think that was instilled upon me and my parents, just telling me like. Um, you try hard and show up and do the right things, those types of things that you're taught early. So let's talk about red flags, what to look out for, because as you mentioned, some of this can seem like it's just normal kid stuff. You're
Yeah.
growing up. There's inherently going to be an awkwardness phase of getting used to your current, the way that you turn into an adult, right? And so, what are actual red flags to look out for?
Mhm. Yeah, so obviously a big one is negative self-talk, right? If your kids are coming to you or you're just catching them and they're saying things like I'm the worst or I'm terrible at that or I'm
Mm,
not as good as this is a different one, but not as good as the other kids, right? So some of that social comparison as well, right? Tied to that negative self-talk like I am blank,
mm.
right? Because they're starting to assign labels to themselves,
Yeah, it's like an
which is
identity, right? They're giving themselves an
yeah.
identity of bad at blank. Yeah.
Right, which is them kind of verbalizing, I don't believe in myself and I can't trust my ability to handle hard things,
Mhm.
right? So that's a big one. Other things would be like kind of sad body language or more depressive body language is what we refer to in the field. So withdrawing, right? So separating
Yeah.
from other people, like your family, of course, or their friends, maybe like hiding in their room or just not wanting to join everyone, so like being on the computer or on screens or maybe getting lost in reading. Sometimes that can be good, right? But sometimes it can also be a sign of social withdrawal.
Yeah.
And of course if they look sad or they're crying, right? So some of those body language cues, if you're noticing like a shift or things changing slowly over time, we want to pay attention to that.
Okay.
Right, and then the last one is having a lack of interest in things that they used to enjoy. So if they really love golf or if they, liked being outside and then you notice like all of a sudden they're spending more time inside or
Mm.
spending less time with their friends, those are signs of depression, but they can also be signs of low self-confidence and of a shift happening there. So those are things as parents that we want to cue into.
Okay. And so if we can recognize these things, that means that we can do work to course correct, right? We can
Mhm.
have strategies to help direct and guide to a place of feeling more confident in themselves. So, how, as parents, can we help? And I think some kids just, or some parents do innately, and others might take a little bit of practice and self reflection there, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the first big tip, of course, is to model confidence yourself as a parent.
Hmm.
And I think we've talked a little bit about this in our growth mindset discussion, but one of the things that you want to do is to demonstrate confidence for your kids as a parent. So that can either be in talking about things that you did really well, always speaking really confidently about yourself in front of your kids. And especially like I think about moms with girls, I'm always really careful about what I say around our daughter. And, I think about like, body image and
Okay.
eating
Yeah.
and all of those things that girls are more vulnerable to.
Mm.
I'm always really confident not to say anything negative in those ways,
Yeah.
but for any kids that is helpful, like boys or girls. But also, just demonstrating that, you believe in yourself and putting those like scripts out there for your kids to pick up on. And I think you do a nice job of
Thank you.
this.
Yeah, I think just the other day, I mean, um, talking about challenges you had and try to solve them. I just the other day we had a podcast recording. It went really poorly, not you and I, but for my podcast, and we had to scrap it. So I made sure to tell the kids,
Hmm.
"Oh, hey, I had this really rough recording," and they were like, "Well, what did you do?" And I said, "Well, uh, we tried again. We stopped. We understood what was wrong about it, and we talked it out, and we're like, all right, let's try this again, and it was way better." So
Yeah.
really like showing that just because something failed, that's okay. It's okay that it failed. It's okay to start over, try something new, and do it better the second time. I always think about this too when I do a lot of audio recording. So for me, sometimes I do a recording and I think it was good, or I have a technical issue and I have to throw that footage away. And it always feels frustrating to be like, should I do this again? Because it's such an effort. But the second or third time you do something, it's always that much better. So, really trying to instill those ideas like, all right, you do it, you gain some confidence. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. You keep pushing forward, you keep trying again, and it might work out better the next few times. And even if it doesn't, you still walk away learning something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. So the second tip here, kind of along the lines of what you were just saying, is to make room for mistakes and failure,
Yeah,
right? And
especially within the kids, because kids
yeah,
will try things and fail and wanna stop.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So when your kids do make mistakes, we're not jumping first to yelling or criticizing, but we want to lean in with empathy.
Yes.
Like, your kid spilled water all over the table, everything is wet.
Mm.
Take a deep breath before you start to get upset and, say, it's okay. Spills happen, right? Let's get a towel and clean it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes such a world of difference because if you are jumping right to the criticism, then the kids over time will learn, oh, I'm clumsy or I'm bad or they just lean into those negative stereotypes because the negative ones are they tend to stick around more in your brain than the
Mhm.
positive ones do, unfortunately, and that's a safety mechanism for your child's brain, but over time if that continues that can lead to low self-confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could even directly see if you're jumping on anything that goes wrong or doesn't work out quite right, that loss of joy or whatever, kids are gonna become way more apprehensive in
Mhm.
what they do. And again, that definitely can harm long term.
Yeah.
So, next one here is encourage kids to try new things, new hobbies like music, art, dance, sports, getting into different, even like STEM activities or any kind of like physical thing. And one thing I love about this in general is that when kids try new things, they they hit resistance points, and you can work on that resiliency and pushing through. But they can also gain skills that will then lead to more confidence. Like, I always think like a lot of my confidence comes from the skills that I have. Like, was it Napoleon Dynamite where he's like talking about all his skills?
I don't know, I need to rewatch that
My
one.
gosh, I got bow hunting skills or whatever. He says a whole bunch of things. Uh, like I feel like I could just like list off my skills and feel like, well, look at me, I got all these skills.
Yeah.
So like getting experience with different things can lead to gaining new skills.
Right, well, and that leans back into that idea that we talked about, right? Which is the ability to handle new or difficult things that you haven't encountered before. And if you have experience in trying new hobbies or having
Yeah.
new skills, you've built in that process already of I've tried something hard and I've run into challenges and I've overcome them over and over again. So you've hit your, what is it, 10,000 hours?
Oh yeah.
Right? But
I
you've
think
hit
that is
that.
largely bunk, but
Oh, is it?
well,
Oh.
I mean, the general idea of it is like the more you do something, yes, you're absolutely going to gain
Yeah, right.
confidence.
But
Yeah,
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 it's confidence. And so, in trying new skills, not only do you have like cool things to, bring
yeah,
to situations like in social situations or, wherever you are, but you've also continuously practiced that skill of trying something hard and overcoming it,
Yeah.
right? So that's what this is doing. And on top of that, like bonus, you get to be really good at lots of other things,
Totally. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one here is to celebrate the effort and perseverance. And we talked about this in the growth mindset episode
Mhm.
where the result isn't what we're celebrating, it's the effort. It is the work done. It is the experience.
Yeah. Yes. So, when kids are trying something new or they're doing something that is hard or difficult, we want to remember to praise the process, right? Rather than the outcome,
Yeah.
right? So we talked about that in our growth mindset episode. If you're interested, check that one out.
Yeah, that was a highly listened to episode. I actually was thinking about this as you were talking about this. Our son really likes Pokemon, right? In
Mhm.
Pokemon, your guy isn't good right away. He's gaining experience the whole time. I wonder if that's an angle you could take. Like, oh, you're just getting your EXP points.
Oh yeah,
You're just growing. You're just
I love this idea, what you're bringing to the table, right? Which is taking something that kids are already interested in or passionate about and is like
mm,
relatable to them to apply to a difficult concept like confidence, right? Because we talk
mm,
about confidence and it's like kind of abstract for kids. They know what it is, but like you don't necessarily, even many adults don't necessarily know how to increase their confidence,
yeah.
right? But if you put it into like a metaphor? Is it metaphor or an analogy?
I mean, I believe that would be an
Okay, so
analogy.
if you
It's
put
like
it in an
this. This
analogy
is like
that
this.
yeah,
Analogous to this. Yes.
right, is relevant to them, then, and it brings it to life for them,
Yeah.
right? It makes such a big difference. So, yeah, that totally works. I don't know if there's, like, other analogous things for kids.
Yeah. I don't know, but I don't know. Well, let's think about that one. I would love to develop that idea
I know,
more deeply.
yeah. Yeah, but, tie it into what your kids are interested in.
Your kid a Pokemon. That's the book right
Yes.
there.
Your kid a Pokemon?
Yeah, your kid a Pokemon.
Yeah, so the next one is to develop their skills of independence by giving them tasks at home that are developmentally appropriate. Now, when I went through and read this list of chores that kids should be doing at various ages, it's always surprising to me because I start to think like, oh, our kids should be doing a lot more than like
Yeah.
I'm actually
You're
having
telling me
them
that
do.
chores are a good thing for confidence.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, they are because it gives your kids those skills of independence, right? Because kids, again, we've talked about this, but so much of childhood is like having to rely on adults to do things for them.
Mm,
And I remember as a kid, like, just wanting to be big enough to do grown up things like all of the time, just craving that independence. And, I wish that my parents had let me do more things independently. Like my mom is a great cook,
mhm.
but a lot of times she would just kind of take over because it's hard to have the patience to let your kids do things because it does slow down the process
Yeah.
like 2 to 3 times more,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But, if you have that time and you can allow your children to be a part of the things that you're already doing at home, then it does make a big difference in terms of their confidence and their self-esteem because they realize like, "Oh, I can do this hard thing that mom is doing." And then the next time you come to that task, they'll be able to do even more, right?
Mhm.
Because they already have those built-in skills. So, just some examples and maybe we do like a different episode on this of like chores at
Yeah, no,
developmental
I think that's a
ages.
great episode. We need to build a chore system is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, yeah. So preschool, picking up toys, sorting laundry, feeding the pets. I think we did all those things. But about 5 to 7 years old, kids can start making their beds. They can start setting up and clearing for meal times. They can put their dirty clothes away, right? So they can start to do a lot more and even start to help with cooking. By about 8 to 10 years, they can help to make dinner even. And I've started to do that with our kids, like having them chop up vegetables
Mhm.
they have like really good child safe knives. So we use those, but
Yeah, those are really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, the child safe knives.
You know what I did the other day? The kids needed a lunch. Usually they get lunch at school, but they needed a lunch because we were at the doctor's office. But I had them make their own lunches. And that was like
Mhm.
Revelationary. Is it
It
revelationary?
was a revelation, yes.
Yes.
I don't know if you could say revelationary, but I have no idea, honestly.
It was a big deal for both the kids and I because I was thinking like, wow, I don't have to do this thing that like I
Yeah.
love doing in the morning when I have like 50 things to do. But also the kids had so much fun making their own lunches. And of course I made sure they were like healthy and appropriate, right? It wasn't just like candy and
Mhm.
cheese. But it was like a variety of
You gave
good
them the
healthy
building
foods.
blocks, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But they did that themselves and that was great, so it was confidence building for both them and me,
Yeah.
right? And then, kids 11 and up can start doing things like actually making meals as well as doing like deep cleaning,
Mm.
right? Cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the bathroom, doing the laundry independently, right? So there's so much that kids can do at any age, and it's really helpful if you have the time to allow them to do those things with you. And we'll talk a little bit more, I think, next about how to do that.
Yeah. So the next thing is setting them up for success because b- if we want to build that confidence in there, right? You want to give them the tools for the most likely positive outcome.
Mhm.
You know, if we say do X, Y, and Z, and you do not give them the correct tools, you are setting them up for failure. The failure could lead to feelings of insecurity there, or like I don't know, uh, I don't have all of the tools, and I don't know how to get them. These are kids; they're still growing and learning in those processes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you don't wanna just throw a new task at them, right, and
yeah.
say, like, "Good luck."
Go hit a home run. Here's your,
Right?
you want to show
Yeah.
them how to hold the bat, where to stand, how to swing.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, right, and we do that, I think, intuitively as parents, but it is helpful to remember that kids can do hard things, but sometimes they need some supports, or we call that built-in scaffolding
Yeah.
to, set them up for success. So there's some examples here. You can have different tasks where, like, if you're cooking, for example, maybe I do the chopping, we do the mixing together, and you do the gathering of the
Yeah.
ingredients,
Yeah.
right? But you're assigning, like, okay, we're going to do this together. You can do this by yourself. And I need to do these things because, we're not quite ready for those things or
Yeah.
because of safety
I can even
reasons.
think of it in a much smaller scale than
Mhm.
this. Like when the kids were young and we would have them feed the dogs. When we first started doing that, we were scooping the amounts correctly and giving them the
Yeah.
spoon, and then
Yeah.
they could, dump it in and let the dogs when they were little. And then now they know how much to fill. They can do the scooping themselves. They can put it in the right dishes and all that stuff. So they can do that themselves. But you are giving them, yeah, the tools here.
Right. Yeah. So some other ways to scaffold could be by, we call it chunking, but like breaking down a big task into smaller pieces,
Mm.
right? So we've talked about, if you need to clean your room, but it's really overwhelming, maybe the first thing that you do is you tell your child, okay, let's just pick up all the toys on the
Yeah.
floor,
Yeah.
right? And then we'll pick up your clothes, right? But you're breaking down a big task into smaller things. And that can be a way to introduce like a new skill to kids. So the other thing too, if you're trying to build an independence, is to use, I love visuals. If you stick around, you'll hear how much I love a visual. But having like a chart or like a checklist, I've talked about that one too, where kids can have all the different tasks or steps
Yeah.
on the checklist, and then independently they can check it off, right? But it builds in that scaffolding, so you're not having to hover over your child and say like, okay, next we need to do this, do
Mm.
that, right? Because you
That
want your kids to be able
micromanaging.
to do it independently, right? But
Yeah.
may not remember all of the skills or be able to handle all of them at the same
You're
time.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I love the ideas here about like what tools can we give for any task that will get them there. It just gets my brain working on different ways that I could be doing things.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so the last confidence building tip we have here is really to express your love,
Yeah.
right? And this one I think is so important because kids will experience like lots of failure, they'll experience negative feedback, criticism from other kids, right? And so the best place they can get support from is from you at home,
Yeah.
right? And so making it a point to verbally tell your kids, I think you're great, or, I know you lost that soccer game today, but I saw you worked so hard and you improved in all these different ways, right? So always pointing out the positives, always trying to build your kids back up,
Yeah.
and, just reminding your kids that you love them no matter what,
Yeah.
no matter if they do like make bad choices, if they have a bad day, if they get a bad grade, you love them for who they are and who they're becoming, and you think that they're great. And that externalized, reinforcement and
Mhm.
verbalized support goes such a long way for kids.
How do you do that while also guiding? And, like, I think about the situation you just said, you know, they tried really hard, you did such a great job. Like, what if they weren't trying hard?
Yeah.
Like, how do you instill upon them, like, "We love you regardless, but you should probably try you should probably
You
focus and
should
try a
probably
little
try
bit."
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I'm in that situation, we've talked about it before, I might pose a question like, okay, so we had a game today,
Mm.
what do you think went well? So I'll always start with the positives. What do you think
Oh,
you
yeah.
did well? Here's what I think you did well. And you can always find something, I think,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah. You did a
Sometimes
really
some days
great
you need to look really hard.
job picking the grass off the field, yeah.
Ow. Yeah.
That was me, though. I say that lovingly because that was me. I was
Yes,
the kid
you're
pulling
the
the grass instead of
daydreamer.
yes.
Yeah. But then ask that question first before you jump in and criticize, like, well, you could have done this and this and this, right?
Mhm.
Ask them first. What do you think you could have done better? And if they can't come up with something, then maybe you guide them to that answer,
Okay,
right?
cool.
But I think if you're going to provide criticism or directed support, like it's best to sandwich it with something that they did well.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, in summary here, I think we hit a lot of really great things. Uh, I feel more confident, and I'm not trying to make a joke. I do feel more confident in the things I'm going to be approaching different. And again, as always, we have so many tools that Courtney gives here. So if there are a couple things that you implement from this or think about them and put it into your brain, you can get a little bit of growth and progress and then again revisit this episode. So in summary, confidence.
Yeah. So let me say two things before we jump into the
Let's do
summary.
that.
So the first would be if you have a neurodiverse child, they are more at risk to having low self confidence because, the things that most people do that come relatively easy, right? Like learning
Mhm.
to read or
Focusing.
focusing or existing socially, right?
Yeah.
Those things are going to be harder for them, dependent on, of course, how their brain works. But, that already sets them up for low self esteem and, things like anxiety and depression. So
Yeah.
if you have a child that is neurodiverse, they'll probably need even more of the confidence boosting skills from you and some more like time and attention to building those skills than maybe a neurotypical kid. So just something to keep in mind. Also, if you've tried some of these things and your child is still really struggling, then it's always okay to seek out additional supports, whether that's, therapy or a social skills group or support at school.
Mm.
You know, that is always okay to build into your routine in your child's life because sometimes it takes, hearing it from someone else that isn't mom or dad to really like hit home for them and to work on some of those skills with, a trained professional.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's important to know. But so in summary, I think it's really important to pay attention to those red flags we talked about,
Yeah.
right? And to really think about where's my child at developmentally? How can I, help them find their passions and their interest in life? And how can I, make it a daily habit to praise them and to, really build up their skills and let them know that I love who they're becoming and
Yeah.
I think they're great instead of leaning on the criticism, which
Okay.
I think can come more naturally, especially as like stressed out parents,
Mhm.
the day is long and, so many things have happened. It's really easy to criticize, but it is harder to intentionally like praise and point out the positives. So I
Totally.
think if you have that in the forefront and you're paying attention to some of these signs that we talked about, as well as thinking about like, how can I build in opportunities for confidence and growth for my child, then you're going to be on the right track.
I love that. I feel like I've learned so much from you. So if you have any questions about anything that we covered in this show, you want us to go deeper, we have a question form on phases.fm. There is a ask questions for the doctor here. You can submit your questions and we will get to them in our Q&A episodes. So thank you so much for watching, and again, we look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Phases. Make sure you subscribe and share with any parents in your life.
And if you have any questions for Dr. Courtney, head on over to phases.fm/questions and ask a question for the doctor.